They are business leaders, experts in economy, society, and culture. In 15 minutes, their insights will create a vivid picture of Vietnam. Sharing Vietnam, the country as you see it.
Hello everyone, I'm John Chun. Welcome to Sharing Vietnam. Today's topic is the importance of innovation in the service sector in Vietnam. We have a very special guest with us today, so let's take a look at the clip to discover who he is.
Hello everyone, welcome to Sharing Vietnam. I'm Phương Liên. As you know that Vietnam has put much more effort in development process of science and technology during this year. In this situation, Vietnam has conducted the project with the aim to build capacity for the related partners of Vietnam in enhancing the strategy innovation for science and technology. In this situation, we have the honors to welcome the Excellency, the famous professor come from International Advisory Board to come to our program today. So now, please follow us to find out who is the guest for Sharing Vietnam today.
Hello everyone and welcome back. So as you have seen from the clip, our guest for today is Dr. Eric Bark, Professor of Social Science and Environment at Hong Kong University Science and Technology. Mr. Bark, it's a pleasure. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks.
So let's jump right into the talk. How long have you been in Vietnam so far?
This time I've been here for 4 days, but I've been visiting Vietnam regularly over quite a few years, since 1994.
And so you have an opportunity to see the drastic changes Vietnam has experienced over the years. From your perspective, what has that been like?
Well, the first thing you notice is the economic growth. You notice it by all the shopping opportunities, the great food available, but at the same time you notice inflation. So they're both good and bad.
And this time you're here, you're a part of a TIN advisor and the International Advisory Board. What's your purpose here this time?
Well, the purpose is to give advice to the Ministry of Science and Technology and ultimately to the Prime Minister on strategy to promote innovation in Vietnam.
And what's your first impression of the science and technology sector here in Vietnam?
I would say it has been very strong, but it needs to be further strengthened. It's incredibly important for Vietnam to have a dynamic and powerful development of science and technology and innovation in order to reach a competitive position in the region, in the world.
So Dr. Bark, as you know, developing countries like Vietnam, the service sector plays a very crucial role, and that's actually our topic of discussion for today. So before we jump into that, let's take a break. Here's a clip about the development of the service sector here in Vietnam.
About 20% of Vietnamese population is using banking services, doubling that in 2007. Người lao động newspaper quoted Nguyễn Đức Vinh, General Director of Vietnam Technological Commercial Joint Stock Bank, as saying, "The whole banking system in Vietnam has provided about 30 million payment cards and tens of thousands of POS, point of sales machines," he added. Though the potential for retail banking service development is still bright, only basic services such as payment cards are widely used in Vietnam. Of over 2 million individual accounts at Techcombank, about 60% sees frequent uses, he said.
Hello everyone and welcome back. So Dr. Bark, we've just seen an example of the banking services in Vietnam. The service sector here covers many industries such as the banking service. And for a developing country as Vietnam, can you explain how important the service sector to its overall development?
Well, it's important in Vietnam because it's important in every country. But when you look at some of the advanced countries, advanced industrial economies, actually they are not really industrial economies anymore. Look at Hong Kong. Something like between 85 and 90% of the GDP is produced by services. To have a high-quality, efficient service sector makes things go more smoothly in the economy, and it makes life better for all of us.
I would agree. And so let's take the banking services as an example. How would you assess banking services in Vietnam?
Well, I'm not an expert, but the impression you sometimes get is that it doesn't exploit the full efficiency possibilities that there are. And I think using innovation, the banking sector could be a much more effective instrument in the economic development in Vietnam.
And I see, if you notice, at this point, the banking service is not really used by a lot of Vietnamese. And so there's a lot of room for improvement. So what are the other areas of service sector do you see needs improvement?
Well, there's the engineering, construction. I think that is a service sector that could benefit a lot from improvement and better quality. I also think that transportation, logistics is a service sector that's essential to development here in Vietnam.
And Dr. Bark, coming from a place like Hong Kong, which is very big on service sector, what can Vietnam learn from developed countries and developed places such as Hong Kong?
Well, Hong Kong has had a history of a strong financial sector, for instance. But in addition, the last 50 years, there's been a use of information technology to upgrade the services, the banking services, making everything much more easy. Like me, I do internet banking, and it's not a big problem, and it makes it easier for me to complete whatever transactions I have. In Vietnam, maybe there's a similar facility, but in Hong Kong, I can transfer money abroad without any serious problems.
So Dr. Bark, actually we're going to take a break, and let's take a look at some of the innovation in the service sectors around the world. Hello everybody and welcome back. So Dr. Bark, it says here you have lots of experience in the service sector. So can you provide Vietnam with any advice to kind of stimulate its innovation in the service sector?
Well, the first thing is, as I mentioned before, the IT-based innovation, like the ATM, other services, internet banking.
Online
this is
banking.
the kind of things that can be promoted. Actually, one of the interesting things about innovation in services is the importance of users. So users are frequently those who either demand new services or even give ideas about new services that would be essential for the sector. And so to some extent, it's not just the government. Users in Vietnam can, by demanding better services, can help innovation.
Dr. Bark, how should service sector innovation be reflected in Vietnam's strategy for STI from here until 2020?
I think it will be reflected, maybe not so strongly as a separate sector, but the strategy can work to help services also. Ultimately, services and innovation is based on the performance of firms. So the strategy can help firms to further introduce innovations.
I see. So Dr. Bark, as a member of the International Advisory Board, what would your advice be to the Ministry of Science and Technology, who will be assigned by the government to draft this strategy?
I think the basic advice that I have been giving these past couple of days is that there should be a strong focus. The ministry and the Prime Minister should have the courage to focus on a few elements where they can start promoting science and technology innovation and making it really dynamic. And then other sectors can follow. And the private industry or the private sector can come in. The foreign investors will fall in.
And my next question, I want to ask you, can you share with us your experience and practices in which you think are best applicable to the situation Vietnam is currently in?
Well, I came to Hong Kong partly because I've studied China over the years, and I think one of the things that should happen is that Vietnam should study and understand more of what has happened in China. Not copy everything, because not everything is perfect, but really try and learn from the Chinese experience. I think the Chinese, for instance, have attracted the diaspora, people who come back or come to Vietnam in order to help Vietnam. And they've been very effective in using that instrument to promote high technology industries, to promote innovation. So
and I think you touched on a very critical point. Right now, currently, the Vietnamese country is kind of counting on diaspora, the community of overseas Vietnamese, kind of return. This is a very critical point, and I think Vietnam as a country can use all the resources that it can.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And so lastly, I want to ask you personally, what's your plans for the future? I do research and teach. My research is very much focused now on climate change and on how we can innovate and create new technologies that can mitigate the effects of climate change. And I think that's a very big issue that I should be concerned with. Maybe not for my own sake, but for young folks like you. Future generation. We want to preserve the world for
to have a good and sustainable world in 50 years' time.
Exactly. Absolutely agree. And Dr. Bark, that's actually all the time we have for today. Okay. And I want to invite you, if there's any last message you want to give to our audience.
Well, Vietnam is a wonderful country. It deserves to develop very fast.
So Dr. Bark, thank you very much. It was a pleasure. And that concludes our show for today. Thank you for watching Sharing Vietnam. From all of us, from NetVid, Channel VTC10, I'm John Chun. Live for today, and we'll see you tomorrow.